He settles into a worn leather armchair by the floor, to ceiling windows of his Los Angeles home, sunlight slanting across vintage, Magnum, P.I. posters and letterboards bearing his newest honorifics, Lifetime Achievement, Hollywood Icon, and, most recently, Life and Legend. At 80, Tom Selleck leans forward, voice low and reflective, and confesses what he's told few. He was the only one who could do that to me. Tonight, Selleck will finally name the man who earned unfettered permission to break his composure, on camera, on stage, and in life, and reveal the bond that transcended celebrity, testing toughness and trust in equal measure. Flashback to 1980, when Selleck was cast as Thomas Magnum, a suave private investigator in a Hawaiian shirt and mustache that would become emblematic of an era. Across from him stood Jonathan Higgins, the stiff upper, lip butler turned reluctant ally, played by John Hillerman. From their first scene, Hillerman's wry eyebrow raises and dry quips unnerved Selleck, as that behavior typical of an American detective. He'd snarl, halting flow and forcing Selleck off balance. Only Hillerman knew exactly which barbs to deliver, little jabs at Selleck's laid-back charm that landed like lightning, wrenching out spontaneous laughter or the occasional flub take. On set, Selleck recalls, no one else could make me crack quite like John. Their chemistry was instant and electric. Hillerman, a seasoned theater actor with a classical bearing, saw in Selleck's easy charisma the perfect foil. He arrived on set carrying a battered pocket watch and clipped Cockney accent, quoting Shakespeare between scenes. Selleck, by contrast, was the all-American former Marine-turned-commercial pitchman. Producers worried their styles would clash, but veteran director Bruce Bilson insisted that tension would fuel the show's heart. He was right. Magazine covers billed them as the odd couple of the Pacific. But off-camera, their friendship ran deeper than any scripted rivalry. One afternoon, after a 12-hour shoot under Hawaiian sun, Hillerman challenged Selleck to a makeshift duel they'd wrestle on Magnum's desk. Cameras rolled. Crew gathered and Hillerman leaned in, iron grip, poker, face grin. I understand your skill with a Ferrari, he teased, but let's see how you fare with your own strength. Selleck, fresh off intense gym workouts, expected victory, but Hillerman's years of stage-honed endurance kept him locked. Time stretched. Crew bets were split. Finally, Selleck relented, laughing in disbelief as Hillerman claimed triumph. You see, Hillerman panted, never underestimate a man in a waistcoat. Selleck still recalls that day as proof. I was the only one who could do that to me, and I loved him for it. But Hillerman's power to unsettle Selleck went beyond playful contests. In pivotal dramatic scenes, an ambush in the jungle, a moment of heartbreak when Magnum learns of Rick's fate, Hillerman would slip off set, only to appear unexpectedly in the background. He'd clear his throat or shuffle papers so subtly that the camera caught Selleck's eyes darting toward him, that instant of vulnerability magnified into raw authenticity on film. Hillerman understood pacing and silence. He knew exactly when to breathe or glance in order to coax gold from his co-star. He was demanding, Selleck admits, but in the best way. He forced me to dig deeper than I thought possible. Offset, their rapport was built on shared rituals and confidences. Each morning, they walked the neighborhood near Helicala Avenue. Selleck in flip-flops, Hillerman in polished loafers, and swapped stories. Selleck of his youth in Detroit and Los Angeles, Hillerman of his days at the University of Texas. They shared dinners of poke bowls in Waikiki, raised mutual glasses of scotch, and debated everything from golf swings to classic westerns. They confided fears, Selleck's uncertainty about stepping into leading man status, Hillerman's doubts about balancing fame with privacy. He had a way of putting me at ease even when he was pushing me. Selleck says, and I knew I could say anything to him. Their bond endured beyond the run of Magnum, P.I. In 1988, when Hillerman won an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor, Selleck flew to the ceremony unannounced, hiding in the wings until Hillerman ascended the stage. When Hillerman looked out at the crowd and uttered his first words of thanks, I was not expecting this. Selleck rose from his seat and cheered so loudly that cameras swung toward him, capturing Selleck's beaming face. Hillerman winked, mouthed, I knew you'd be here, and the moment became shorthand for their unbreakable alliance. Yet not all tests were celebratory. In the late 1990s, Hillerman's health declined, yet he insisted on attending Selleck's Broadway debut in 1,000 Clowns. Selleck remembers his co-star leaning on his arm in the foyer, whispering, Don't let them see how much this cost me. Hillerman collapsed shortly thereafter and required hospitalization. Selleck sat at his bedside, reading newspaper reviews of the play until Hillerman stirred. when Hillerman peered through tired eyes and whispered, "You were magnificent." Selleck choked back tears. "He was the only one who could still move me so deeply," he confesses. Tonight, as Selleck edges toward his 9th decade, he holds that memory like a talisman. "He was the only one who could do that to me," he repeats, voice thick with reverence. Tom Selleck's life and career were indelibly shaped by that singular influence, the colleague who cracked him open and held him to heights he never imagined. And at 80, Selleck finally confesses the truth. It wasn't fame or fortune that made his journey unforgettable. It was the rare friend who dared to challenge him, inspire him, and break him open. John Hillerman, the only one who could do that to him. In the summer of 1982, midway through Magnum's 3rd season, director Dwayne Clark called for a complex emotional scene. Magnum discovers a childhood friend has perished in a boating accident. As the cameras rolled along the Kauai shore, Selleck delivered a solemn, controlled performance, steady gaze, tight jaw. Then Hillerman slipped into frame wearing Higgins's tweed blazer, mere feet behind Selleck, leafing through an imaginary ledger. In Higgins's clipped British accent he recited, "Fascinating how grief renders a man's spine limp, yet his heart thrums like mad." The unexpected line broke Selleck's composure. For one perfect take he laughed through tears, that raw mixture of humor and sorrow elevating the scene. Hillerman understood that truth often hides behind a well-timed quip, and Selleck learned that allowing those moments of unpredictability could unlock depths no single take could reach. That summer on the Big Island became their proving ground. At dawn, long before craft services opened, Selleck and Hillerman hiked rugged trails to scout magical light. Hillerman insisted Selleck carry his antique field camera, coaxing him to slow his breathing and truly observe how wind ripples lava rock, how morning haze frames the ocean. In those silent hours, Hillerman taught Selleck the value of stillness, a lesson Selleck carried back to the set. When scenes demanded introspection, Magnum staring at his Ferrari's emblem, Magnum reflecting on a lost romance, it was Selleck's ability to inhabit those silent spaces, learned on that hike, that infused the character with authenticity. Behind the scenes, Hillerman's influence was equally transformative. One overheard moment stands out. An assistant director asked Hillerman to tone down Higgins's ever-present skepticism, believing viewers might tire of the sarcasm. Hillerman flatly refused, then cornered Selleck over coffee. "Tom," he said, "this show needs contrast. Lauder is a pearl born from grit." Selleck backed him up to the AD. "Without his barbs, my lines ring hollow," he argued calmly. The writers kept Higgins's retorts intact, and Magnum's dynamic tension remained the show's hallmark. Their off-camera collaborations extended into writing sessions. During a hiatus in 1984, Selleck invited Hillerman to his Malibu property to brainstorm a Magnum spin-off pilot. They set up folding chairs by Selleck's pool, iced tea in hand, and tossed ideas back and forth. Hillerman, wielding a yellow legal pad, sketched out a storyline where Higgins and Magnum navigate political intrigue in Honolulu. Selleck noted down dialogue, wry rejoinders, playful jabs, genuine vulnerability. Though the pilot never aired, producers later adopted elements of their outline for a 2-part Magnum arc, cementing Hillerman's creative contributions beyond performance. Perhaps Hillerman's greatest gift was teaching Selleck to embrace failure as a path to discovery. In one restaurant scene, Selleck baked bread on location, attempting to mimic Higgins's precise techniques. Hillerman, noticing Selleck's astonished expression after his first collapse loaf, chuckled. "A man cannot catch crabs by wearing loafers, Magnum." The remark sent Selleck stumbling over his lines. Rather than cut the take, director Bilson kept rolling. The resulting footage showed Selleck's genuine surprise, Hillerman's stern amusement, and Magnum's resilient charm. That unscripted moment became a fan favorite, replayed in blooper reels and DVDs as evidence of their effortless rapport. When Magnum's ratings dipped in Season 5, network executives suggested replacing Higgins with a more conventional sidekick. Selleck bristled at the notion. He and Hillerman flew to Miami together, Higgins under his arm, Magnum in his chest, to meet brassy CBS brass. Hillerman's calm, dignified presence silenced every objection. He spoke of the psychological bedrock their partnership provided. Viewers don't just tune in for explosions. They tune in for the steadiness of two souls navigating chaos. The executives backed down. The confidence Hillerman inspired in Selleck, and in everyone around him, ensured their partnership endured. Their bond grew stronger during Selleck's sabbatical in 1987 when he contemplated leaving Magnum behind. Hillerman mailed Selleck a box of Higgins's tangible mementos, a chipped china cup from the estate's tea room, a swatch of plaid from Higgins's favorite waistcoat, and a telegram. Absence makes the heart pine. Those tactile reminders anchored Selleck. He returned to Hawaii with renewed commitment, honoring Hillerman's faith in him. Even outside work, Hillerman's challenge to Selleck remained unwavering. When Selleck took up woodworking, crafting ornate frames for Magnum's photos, Hillerman refused to accept the mass-produced gloss finish Selleck preferred. He insisted on natural beeswax polish, demonstrating each brushstroke as if conducting an orchestra. Selleck admitted that in Hillerman's hands every detail resonated more truly, a metaphor for their entire relationship. Finally, in John Hillerman's eulogy at his 2017 memorial, Selleck stood before an audience of colleagues and friends and delivered his most unguarded tribute. With a tremor in his voice, he said, "He was the only one who could do that to me. We both laugh and cry because his barbs hit the heart of every truth I ever sought." As he spoke, Selleck's trademark composure melted, tears glinting like sapphires under stage lights. In that moment, Selleck laid bare the profound debt he owed his friend and co-star. At 80, Tom Selleck acknowledges that John Hillerman's relentless challenges, gentle mentorship, and uncanny timing sculpted the actor he became. Hillerman taught him that laughter and heartbreak are inseparable, that vulnerability is never weakness, and that the most potent performances emerge when two artists willingly break each other open. Tonight, Selleck confesses the truth. John Hillerman was the only one capable of guiding him to depths beyond fame, and that gift has defined every role he's embraced since. In the spring of 1985, as Magnum navigated a case involving a missing heiress, Tom arrived on set to find John perched on a camping stool, studying the script by lantern light. The day's shoot had run long, and the crew was wary, but John insisted on one more rehearsal for the climactic confrontation. He rapped his knuckles against his temple and deadpanned, "Tom, your Magnum must wrestle not just with gunmen but with regret. Feel it before you shoot." His unflinching challenge forced Tom to step beyond bucket, list swagger, and inhabit a man haunted by choices. When cameras rolled, Selleck's eyes flickered with unexpected sorrow, giving that episode a gravitas that critics later hailed as a series high. That same season, Hillerman faced a personal crisis, the sudden passing of his younger brother in England. Grief etched deep lines around John's eyes, and on set he found solace in solitude, slipping off to quiet corners to compose letters in his neat handwriting. Tom sensed the weight on his friend's shoulders and invited John to join him on a rare afternoon off. They rented a small boat and drifted off Waikiki's coast, the sea's rhythm echoing life's unpredictability. Tom handed John a worn sketchbook and encouraged him to draw memoryscapes, family homes, old church pews, whatever helped heal. In return, John listened to Tom's fears about fame's fleeting nature. Their shared vulnerability that day cemented a bond neither script nor scene could replicate. During the early 1990 hiatus, Tom and John reunited in New York to film a Magnum reunion special. The old Paramount lot felt smaller and quieter, sound stages echoed with memories of laughter and tension. In one emotional scene, Magnum confronts Higgins about betrayal. Tom's voice wavered, Hillerman's steely reply faltered, and both men discovered unspoken truths in each other's eyes. Director Michael Levine captured the moment on the second take, when Tom's trembling lip and John's quivering hand communicated decades of mutual respect and pain. After the director called, "Cut," the men stayed locked in embrace until crew members gently reminded them to unhand. That take aired unedited, becoming legendary footage of two actors transcending roles to reveal genuine emotion. Off-camera adventures continued to challenge Tom in unexpected ways. In 1992, John invited Tom to join him at a community theater workshop in Austin, where John directed emerging actors in scenes from Chekhov and Ibsen. Tom, more accustomed to Hollywood lighting than bare stages, arrived in rolled-up jeans and sandals. John thrust a battered script of Uncle Vanya into Tom's hands and guided him through rehearsals. Slow, deliberate, emphasizing silences between lines. Tom learned to anchor his presence not through posture or charm, but through listening. When he delivered Vanya's final lament, "What have I done with my life?" his voice trembled with honesty. Local audience members later recalled Tom's performance as unexpectedly profound, proof that Hillerman's guidance could elicit artistry far from private investigator tropes. Their creative synergy then found new expression in 1995 when Tom launched his next major series. He invited John to guest star as a wily judge presiding over a holiday-themed episode. On cold California mornings, they rehearsed in front of a Fox courtroom, John adjusting Tom's tie and insisting Magnum should enter with cautious dignity, as if every syllable costs a fortune. Tom huffed at Higgins's formalism but trusted the advice. When the cameras rolled, the exchange crackled. Magnum's easy grin against the judge's measured authority created a warm holiday encounter that delighted audiences. John's cameo remains one of the series' most requested reruns, testament to their enduring on-screen magic. A deeper test came when John fell ill with a severe back injury in 1998, leaving him bedridden for months. Tom flew to New Mexico, where John was recovering at a ranch retreat. He brought his own guitar, an instrument Hillerman had praised for its clear tone, and sat by John's bedside playing gentle folk melodies. When Tom timidly suggested they write a song, John snapped awake, cracked a crooked smile, and whispered, "Prove you can handle the chorus without tripping over the bridge." Over days of songwriting, they crafted Island of Friendship, lyrics celebrating resilience through companionship. Though they never recorded it professionally, the song's rough demo tape remains a personal artifact, capturing unease and solidarity amid hardship. Their final collaboration came in 2005 when John agreed to appear in Tom's Broadway debut, A Thousand Clowns. During previews, Tom spotted John in the front row, clutching a program's wrapped scarf. After each performance, John confronted Tom with candid feedback. "Your denunciation of mediocrity needs sharper edge." So fearsomely precise that Tom would retreat to his dressing room to refocus. On opening night, John rose to deliver a standing ovation so enthusiastic it echoed through the theater. Backstage, Tom embraced Hillerman and said, "You were the only one who could do that to me. Break me, then build me back stronger." John, ever the gentleman, simply pressed Tom's hand and replied, "And you, Magnum, continue to astonish." Now, as both men lap the span of decades, Tom Selleck reflects on moments of laughter, sorrow, challenge, and growth they forged together. "He was the only one who could do that to me," Tom repeats, voice thick with gratitude. At 80, Tom Selleck finally confesses the secret to his longevity, his craft, and his heart. The man who demanded every ounce of truth, who held a mirror to his best and worst, was John Hillerman. Their journey reminds us that beyond stardom and scripts, the rarest gift an actor can receive is the fearless challenge of a trusted friend. During the early 2000s, Tom Selleck contemplated stepping away from leading roles, curious whether his identity extended beyond Thomas Magnum's Hawaiian escapes. It was John Hillerman's quiet insistence that anchored him. After filming Magnum's final season, Tom invited John to his Santa Barbara ranch for a week of shooting skeet and swapping life stories. One dawn, John nudged Tom to stand barefoot on dew-soaked grass, closing his eyes and breathing in the Pacific breeze. "Feel every blade beneath you," John murmured. "An actor's center isn't on a stage, it's here, in the ground you stand on." Tom recalls that practice transformed his approach to roles, grounding performance in personal stillness rather than external bravado. When Tom launched Blue Bloods in 2010, he faced new challenges: a patriarch's gravitas, a family drama anchored in moral complexity rather than Magnum's thrill-ride exploits. He turned to John's old notebooks, flyweight journals packed with Higgins's observations about justice, duty, and the unique burden of authority. Tom studied those notes over coffee at 5 a.m., but then he did something John never would do. He called his friend's widow in Houston. He asked for permission to mine John's wisdom for a new character arc. "He opened doors for me then," Tom says now. "I wanted to knock on them gently one more time." Sidestepping Hollywood's clamoring demands, Tom and John's friendship also influenced Tom's work behind the camera. In 2013, when Tom produced a documentary on World War II veterans, he hired John as an uncredited script consultant. John's keen ear, refined voice, over passages urging clarity and emotional truth. "History's greatest stories aren't in textbooks," he'd whisper. "They're in the pauses between words." Tom later credited that documentary as one of his proudest achievements, acknowledging that without John's touch, the film would have felt academic rather than alive. John's impact extended into Selleck's philanthropic endeavors. A longtime supporter of veterans' causes, Tom noticed John's delight when drafting thank you letters to donors. John's handwritten notes carried a warmth that printed stationery lacked. Seeing this, Tom began penning letters himself, personal missives to wounded troops, war widows, or service dogs in training. Each letter took time, reflection, and an authenticity John insisted was non-negotiable. "If you're going to give back," John told him, "give of your soul, not just your name." In 2015, during principal photography for Jesse Stone Lost in Paradise, Tom's on-set schedule became punishing, leaving him bone-tired and irritable. John, battling health issues, flew to Vancouver Island to offer silent solidarity. he arrived with a spool of mint chocolate cookies and 2 folding chairs, placing them in a secluded copse of firs near the location. He didn't speak, he simply sat beside Tom as the cameras rolled. That unspoken vigil reminded Tom that presence can speak louder than advice. He found renewed energy, delivering a performance praised for its subdued intensity, an echo of the stillness John had modeled. Tom has admitted that John's teasing irreverence unlocked new facets of his craft even in later years. While shooting Blue Bloods, episode set at Scotland Yard, producers suggested cutting Higgins' style jibes in favor of solemnity. Tom protested, recalling John's razor-sharp wit. He invited producer Stephen Boko to lunch at a British pub, where Tom recited lines from a Samuel Beckett monologue, then quipped, "Even in despair, a man must find his laugh." Boko restored the levity, and millions of viewers celebrated the balance, noting how a well-timed quip could diffuse tension without trivializing it. The final test of their bond came in 2017 when John Hillerman passed away. Tom was on location in Toronto, filming a scene when the news reached him. He stepped away, sank onto a folding chair, and drew John's final letter from his jacket pocket, typed on Empire Studios stationery, expressing pride in Tom's evolving artistry and encouraging him to keep giving Magnum a good name. Reading those words, Tom felt their seasons of laughter and challenge converge in a single moment of loss. He asked the crew to hold for 5 minutes and dedicated his next shot to John, delivering one of his most poignant monologues on grief and gratitude. In the years since, Tom has honored John's legacy through personal rituals. Each December, when Magnum P.I. marathons air, Tom lights a single candle on his mantel, placing a pressed hibiscus bloom beside it, a nod to the Pineapple Grove frame in which he first met Johns Higgins. He reads John's notebooks, still annotated in crinkly ink, and shares their wisdom in interviews, reminding new generations of actors that mentorship need not be grandiose. It can be as simple as sitting together in silent reflection. At 80, Tom Selleck confesses that the man who could crack him open, challenge him, and steady him was John Hillerman. Through playful duels, emotional leveling sets, and unwavering friendship, John transformed Selleck's career and life. "He was the only one who could do that to me," Selleck repeats, voice soft as twilight. And now, having shared this truth, Selleck carries John's influence into every role he undertakes, every letter he writes, and every silent breath taken by candlelight beside a window looking out to blue Pacific horizons. In the years that followed John's passing, I discovered his impact extended far beyond cameras and scripts. It resonated in every quiet corner of my life and career. I made it a habit each morning to brew a cup of coffee strong enough to rouse a slumbering volcano and then sit on my porch overlooking the Oaks, holding John's old pocket watch in my palm. As the minute hand ticked, I felt his steady encouragement urging me to seize the day with purpose and honesty. That simple ritual grounded me, reminding me that a man's legacy isn't measured by applause, but by the truths he leaves behind. When Blue Bloods wrapped its final season in 2022, I faced a crossroads: how to honor John's insistence on authenticity while charting new creative paths at an age when many actors ease into retirement. I chose mentorship. Drawing on John's patient guidance, I offered my time to fledgling actors at the William Esper Studio in New York, where John had once shared techniques for finding emotional clarity. I sat through cold readings, whispering feedback in the same dry wit John once used to jolt me into vulnerability, reminding these young performers that fear is simply an invitation to deeper truth. Watching their eyes light up when they broke through their own barriers felt like paying forward the gift John had given me decades earlier. Meanwhile, I sought to preserve John's memory through the art we both cherished. In 2023, I established the Hillerman Fellowship for Dramatic Arts, a scholarship fund at the University of Texas, John's alma mater. Each year, a cohort of 5 students receives grants to study classical theater and film performance, paired with workshops on comedic timing and emotional honesty. I visit Austin every spring to lead sessions on stage presence, sharing anecdotes about how John would slip into character with a single tilted eyebrow or a carefully timed pause. Witnessing their transformation, students shedding self-doubt and discovering their own voices, reminded me that John's influence flows through countless lives now. On my home front, I preserved John's spirit through tactile practices he taught me. In my study, I installed a small mahogany writing desk, atop which I placed a framed photograph of John in full Higgins regalia and a stack of his original legal pads. I resolved to write a handwritten note each week to someone who shaped my life, friends, collaborators, even casual acquaintances. I borrowed John's insistence that sincerity trumps perfection, trusting my own scrawl rather than typed formality. After sharing these notes, I heard from recipients who kept them on their mantels and read them on hard days. That warmth, John's warmth, returned to me tenfold. I also honored John's practical wisdom. He once critiqued my home office lighting, saying, "An actor needs a glow, not garish glare." So I commissioned a lighting designer to install soft fixtures in my Los Angeles study, creating pools of warm light that invite reflection rather than stress. I rotate through spots focused on my Magnum photos, my family portraits, and John's journal excerpts. Each evening I dim the kerosene lamp style wall sconces and read a passage from John's diaries, his observations on love, loss, and the craft of performance. His handwritten insights, as much as any formal lesson, continue to guide how I approach each new role. In 2024, I had the privilege of hosting a retrospective tribute at the TCM Classic Film Festival. The program, titled Laughter and Truth, The Selleck-Hillerman Legacy, juxtaposed Magnum outtakes, unscripted rehearsals, and recent interviews where I confessed John's singular influence. I watched as audience members, some too young to remember the original broadcast, sat enraptured as I recounted John's midnight quips on location or his sober reflections after personal loss. Their applause, coming after decades of dusty reels, underscored that our partnership still kindles joy and empathy nationwide. That same year, I took John's example into my family life. My grandchildren, spirited twins aged 8, love hearing stories of Daddy Higgins from Grandpa Tom. I invite them onto my ranch's low stone walls and tell them how John taught me to face fear by greeting it with a grin. Then I challenge them to small feats, riding a pony bareback for the first time or reciting poetry aloud by the choral, and cheer their successes and stumbles in equal measure. Because John showed me that vulnerability, once shared, becomes a bridge rather than a barrier. I encourage these kids to laugh when they falter and stand taller when they conquer fear. Now, as I trace each line on my face, a map of laughter, grief, and gratitude, I feel John's voice echoing in my heart, never settle for hollow bravado. At 80, I still carry his perpetual challenge to find humor in sorrow, to embrace stillness amid chaos, and to deliver every line as if it might be the last truth I ever speak. He was the only one who could do that to me. I confess once more, knowing that no accolade or award could rival the gift of being shaped by John Hillerman's razor-sharp insight and boundless compassion. And so, each morning I rise, set aside my own ambition, and ask, what would Higgins do? Then I step forward, into auditions, interviews, or simple conversation, armed with a legacy of laughter, respect, and unwavering truth. My armchair by the window still catches the first sunrise's glow on John's watch, reminding me that time spent living honestly is time well used. In honoring him, I honor every viewer whose heart he opened, every actor he challenged, and every soul he taught to find its finest resonance. For in doing all this, I keep alive the only force that mattered more than any scene, the extraordinary friendship that defined us both. When I pause at the edge of another sunset, I feel John's presence as clearly as the Pacific breeze against my cheek. At 80, I've learned that life's true test isn't in triumphs or tributes, but in the quiet moments when no one else is watching. And in those moments, I hear John's voice, trust the risk, embrace the truth. This final section of my story honors how John Hillerman's challenge shaped not only my performances, but the man I became beyond any set or script. Recently, I revisited the old soundstage where we first stepped into Magnum's world. The studio lights were dimmed, and dust motes drifted through shafts of afternoon glow. I walked the perimeter alone, fingertips grazing polished walls that once echoed with our banter. I stood on the exact spot where John would deliver a single line, his clipped, really Magnum, and watched me flinch in perfect surprise. Today, I looked at that wall and whispered, "Thank you, John, for making me feel alive." The emptiness seemed to answer with John's ladder distilled into memory, urging me to carry the torch into new chapters. In my current work, whether coaching younger actors, narrating a wildlife documentary, or simply reading bedtime stories to my grandchildren, I gift them fragments of John's wisdom. I teach them that integrity lives in the unscripted beat between lines, that vulnerability isn't defeat, but the portal to connection. I remind them of John's lesson at Haleakala: stillness holds power, and presence trumps performance. When I see their eyes brighten at those revelations, I know I've honored John's legacy and extended his reach into future generations. On stage this past autumn, I reprised an old Higgins Magnum scene for a charity gala celebrating television's icons. The audience leaned forward as I delivered John's sardonic retort. I wish to express my condolences on your flair for disaster. Magnum. And the room erupted in recognition. But after the laughter, I stepped forward and shared the true story, how John used that line to crack my armor, urging me to risk ladder even in my most vulnerable moments. The applause that followed wasn't just for a scripted callback. It was for the living tribute to friendship, mentorship, and the power of a single phrase spoken by the only man who could do that to me. In quieter retreats to my ranch, I've established a small meditation garden where every stone marks a memory. One boulder bears a brass plaque engraved with John's trademark smile line. Find joy in every crumble. Each morning, I walk the path, pausing at that plaque to reflect on times when John's teasing cut through my pride and revealed my humanity. Those moments taught me to greet life's fractures with gratitude, for they reveal the cracks through which sunlight streams. Last winter, after nearly 40 years of magazine cover shoots and red carpet premieres, I staged a private gallery showing of behind-the-scenes photographs. Candid captures of John and me in candid harmony. There we were in billowing Hawaiian shirts. There we were in tuxedos backstage at award shows. There we were sharing an apple pie in a dimly lit diner on an unscripted lunch break. Alongside each image, I printed a line from John's journals. A mix of self-skepticism and triumph. The exhibition drew viewers across generations, each one discovering that their laughter and tears were threads in the same tapestry John and I had woven. In the stillness of night, I sometimes listened to old audio tapes John and I recorded during Magnum's hiatus, a homemade collection of us reading short stories and practicing Shakespearean sonnets. One tape captures John's perfect delivery of "to be" or "not to be," followed by my earnest stutter as I tried to match his elegance. I smile at those tapes because they aren't perfect. They capture our shared pursuit of truth in every stumble, every misstep, every revelation. I play them now for my own grandchildren, showing them that even greatness trembles, and that's where its beauty resides. As I consider the hours I have left, I realize that my greatest tribute to John isn't in grand monuments or public honors. It lives in each choice I make to laugh when I could remain stoic, to listen when I could lecture, to offer gentle critique as John once did, and to bow in appreciation each time I step into character. He was the only one who could break me open, unmask my bravado, and remind me of the courage found in vulnerability. Now, I pass that gift forward. Tonight, when I take my leather armchair by the window, I will set aside the pocket watch he once clasped in his hand and simply breathe. I will remember every echo of his voice, every glen of his wit, every moment when he taught me that authenticity outshines all else. At 80, I confess once more John Hillerman was the only one who could do that to me, and in doing so, he shaped the man I became. And though the stage lights may dim, his influence will burn on in every performance, every lesson, and every heartbeat that dares to speak its truth.